So 6G will not just be there for connecting things, but you can also sense the environment with integration of radar functionalities, for example.
Andreas, thank you very much for joining us in this IFA 2023 live podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm doing pretty fine. Good to be here. It's my first time at IFA and really exciting to see how big it is and how much things are going on here.
And how have you found your IFA experience so far?
Well, it was primarily the conference this morning, which is the scientific part of IFA. It was very interesting, and I hope I still find some time later today to also have a look at the main exhibition and the fair itself.
Oh, fingers crossed. So for people who might not know you, can you give us a little bit of a background, your history, and what it is that you do?
Yeah, I'm with Bosch. Bosch is, of course, a major player, also a major player here at IFA with all the household and kitchen appliances primarily, but we are also active in many other areas, the mobility sector, industrial automation, and many more. And my role in Bosch is that I'm responsible for the 6G activities within the organization.
Okay, so effectively, let's just start at the base level. What is 6G?
Well, to put it simply, 6G will be the next G, the next generation, right? We are currently still at a stage where we're introducing 5G. So I think everybody who is buying a smartphone nowadays has it 5G enabled. But it's still the beginning of the journey. So even with 5G, there's much more to come in the coming years. 6G will be the next G, but it's still a bit far away, right? Mm-hmm. So we will see the first rollout of 6G starting around 2030. It's still 7 years from now, but still the major research and innovation activities are starting to take off right now. So there are many things happening in academia, into the standardization bodies and so on. And Bosch wants to be part of this from day one.
So, yeah, if we're thinking back in time a little bit in the evolution of the Gs, as it were, what is the major change to going from, say, 3G to 4G, 4G to 5G, and then we can talk about what's expected a little bit from 6G?
Yeah, typically it takes 10 years for one generation, if you look back at the previous ones. And in the past, so if you look at 1G to 4G, it was always about providing connectivity for people. Mm-hmm. So we were using phones, right? It started with analog telephony, then we got digital telephony, then we got high data rate, internet connectivity. With 4G, that got even better. And that's where we are coming from. With 5G, that changed already because 5G from the beginning had a stronger focus on IoT, the Internet of Things. So it has been designed for connecting cars, for connecting robots in a factory and tiny little sensors in a smart home context, for example. But if you look at the reality today, we are not there yet with 5G. Mm-hmm. So there are some challenges why it didn't materialize yet. Now with 6G, that will fundamentally change, hopefully. And 6G will turn into a general platform fostering the digital transformation of our society and the entire economy.
So what's the specific goal? Is it, I remember one of the things I've read about the difference between 4G and 5G, it wasn't so much about, like you said, about speed increase. It was more about having the ability to connect lots of different things. So basically giving a higher overall load as opposed to a faster A to B connection. What's kind of can you sum up 6G in a way that is as visual as that, or is it more infrastructural, sound-based?
I would say 6G most likely will have two different tracks, right? There will be the evolutionary track, and that's about providing even higher data rates, up to 1 terabit per second, providing even lower latency, even higher reliability. So it's the evolution of the things we have been doing in the past, just better, stronger, faster. But what makes it even more interesting, at least from the perspective of a player like Bosch, are completely new capabilities that will be supported by 6G. And that's, for example, the integration of sensing capabilities. So 6G will not just be there for connecting things, but you can also sense the environment with integration of radar functionalities, for example. We will see the deep integration of artificial intelligence, not just for optimizing the 6G system, but also for exposing this to users, to companies like Bosch, that we can make use of that. And it will also support digital twinning from day one in a very native and efficient way. And that's then finally the enabler for the metaverse, where we have a virtual replication, basically, of the physical world.
And then how do you get a group of technology companies to work together on that? Because, when you think of, the huge range of massive companies there, it feels sometimes like trying to achieve a common goal is a little bit like herding cats. It's very tough to get people in one direction. How does it go that everyone agrees on a certain methodology and then sticks to that over time?
I think collaboration certainly is the key here, and especially collaboration in this very early stage. What makes it even more complicated than before is that it's not just the telco industry anymore, right? So in 1G to 4G, it was always the telco industry, the network operators, the infrastructure vendors, the chipset providers. But now it's also all these vertical players like Bosch, like Siemens, ABB, and so on. And you have to bring players coming from different domains together to come up with a common vision of 6G. That's where we currently are. Mm-hmm. And then also making sure that we identify and develop the right building blocks to make this vision become a reality.
So it's a little bit like making sure you all agree on what it is that you want, this kind of overall arching goal in the future, and then you can start to move in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think now it's getting sharper and sharper what the vision of 6G is, so what we envision it to be. And now we have to see what really makes sense, also from an economic point of view, right? So it's one technology is one thing, but we also have to see that there's the right return on invest at the end of the day. And then we have to make sure that we identify and take the right steps to make this vision turn into reality.
So I think you said 2030 was the rough time frame for 6G, correct?
2030 is the time when we introduce what we will call 6G, but it's an evolutionary process. So 5G is continuously further developed. There's not a single 5G standard. There's a new standard coming up every 18 months on average. And we are now approaching the 6G vision. And at some point, we just put the 6G sticker on it and we call it 6G. But it's not a step function. It's really an evolutionary process. And some of the things we are discussing right now in the context of 6G, like the integration of sensing capabilities, the integration of artificial intelligence, this is something that we will already see earlier, before 2030.
So if you had to predict how we're going to be using these 6G masts and infrastructure by 2035, like what the day-to-day would look like for an average person, how do you think they would see and benefit from this technology?
Well, I would say many things probably are happening behind the scenes, right? So that you see the benefits as an average consumer, so that things are much more automated and it's more higher level of comfort, of safety, and so on. But you're not directly seeing what is happening behind the scenes. And the metaverse is really the key buzzword here. When talking about the metaverse, most people think about Meta's vision, Mark Zuckerberg's vision of the metaverse, that we're all wearing these VR goggles and so on. And that is part of it. But the real value, also from a Bosch perspective, is in so-called vertical metaverses. So there will be a metaverse for the mobility sector, right? So where all the cars have the digital twins, they may collaborate, they may do collaborative maneuvers, they may improve the safety and so on, which is happening behind the scenes, but it's still one instance of the metaverse. Or the industrial metaverse in a factory, everything is replicated virtually. You can simulate things before you're doing them and so on. And this is where the real value of the metaverse, from my point of view, is. And this is enabled eventually by 6G.
And if there was one thing you're most excited about seeing when the 6G rolls out?
Well, one capability that I'm really excited about is this integration of sensing capabilities, right? If you can turn a 6G device, a 6G network, in a sensing platform that can also see what is going on, right? Then you can do many new things that were not possible in the past. If you look at a smart home scenario and imagine you have a 6G network at home, right? You can do a detection of intruders, for example, intrusion detection. You can do activity detection. You can see how many people are in a room. Are they sleeping? Are they running around? Maybe you can detect emergency situations. If you fall down and are not moving anymore, that automatically someone is called to help you and so on. So they're completely new use cases and applications that are possible, and it's really exciting to be part of this development.
Andreas, thank you very much for your time. That's fascinating. Can't wait to play with the latest 6G enabled gadgets that are going to come in the next decade.
All right, yeah, thanks for having me.